Okay, this video is going to be the making of the 0.25 molar sodium hydroxide. Okay, so before we did, when we did our pre-lab, we figured out that we needed to weigh out 5 grams of sodium hydroxide for our solution. So that's the first thing that we're gonna do, okay? So you'll see that I have my scale here, okay? It looks a little dirty, please ignore that. I'm gonna take a weigh boat and put it here. And you'll notice that it's going to change my amount. Okay, so this weigh boat weighs 2.737 grams. I want to tell the scale to ignore the weigh boat. So I'm going to push this button right here that says re-0, and it's going to change it back to 0. So then that way I don't have to calculate, and I can just weigh it to the 5 grams, and that helps. So here's the sodium hydroxide. I'm going to take it. This scale likes to take a few minutes. Okay, it looks like I got a little bit too much there, sodium hydroxide. So let's take some out and see what we've got here. Okay, now I'm down 1. So I only took 1 pellet out, so I'm gonna add 1 more to see if I can get close to 5. Okay, I think that's about as close as I'm gonna get. So we are going to record 5.045 grams for sodium hydroxide. Okay, now that we weighed out the sodium hydroxide, I have that here, okay? I'm now gonna add it to the volumetric flask here. So unfortunately, some of you did not get to make solutions last year, so I'm gonna talk briefly about this volumetric flask, okay? The volumetric flask is used to make solutions specifically, and they come in all different sizes. So this is a 500 milliliter volumetric flask. The reason why we use volumetric flasks to make solutions is because their volume is very, very accurate, okay? Now, if I get up close here to show you, you should see an etched line here. That's the line that you use to know that you measure to 500 milliliters, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna put the sodium hydroxide. It's already started to gather some water. You can kind of see it looks a little dewy, okay? So I'm gonna take this, okay? I'm gonna add it in here. Like so. Okay, so now I have all of my sodium hydroxide in my flask. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix it with distilled water, okay? Distilled water is used to make solutions because distilled water has nothing in it except for H2O. So when I add it in here, then I know that I only have sodium hydroxide and water, H2O. So I'm gonna take the lid off to add the first amount, okay? And now when I make the solution, I don't want to fill it all the way to the line initially. I want to try and get as much of it dissolved as possible. Okay, so that looks about good. So now I'm going to shake it up here, try and get the little pellets to dissolve. Okay. Shake, 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 shake. Okay, add a little bit more water. Okay, keep shaking. I'm gonna shake until I get this dissolved, and I'm gonna pause and I'll restart here. Okay, now I have most of the sodium hydroxide dissolved. I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of the water because it's gonna sit overnight before I do the titration tomorrow, okay? Now, when I finish filling, you don't wanna fill up to the line like I'm doing right now. What you wanna do is, because I'm gonna run out of water here, is I'm going to fill this back up with water, is you want to get your, put your lid on and squeeze, because the one thing is if you go over the line, you have to start all over because now you don't have the concentration that you were originally aiming for. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start squeezing, and if you remember, you need to make sure that you're looking for the meniscus, right? So a meniscus with water, water goes like this. So when you measure, you need the bottom of the meniscus, okay, not the top, because then you're gonna have too much, okay? So I'm gonna get down at eye level here and add until my meniscus is on the line, okay? And so if I hold this up here, it's really hard to see. I'm gonna get a picture and I'll post it so you can understand what's happening with the meniscus. And then the last thing you wanna do is, since I'm not gonna be doing the titration until tomorrow, I'm gonna take some parafilm, which is kind of like a really strong saran wrap, and I'm gonna put it over top of my solution because I don't want any water to evaporate, because if it does, then I'm gonna have not the molarity that I'm looking for. And that's how you make a solution.